What is up, guys, and in this video I will be showing you the best video settings for your Nikon Z or Z50, and this is me after using it for roughly around 2 months, and I want to show you guys the best video settings that I found to have the best video quality. So first, what I want to do is I want to go into menu right here. Next, what I want to go into is my movie shooting settings. First, what I want to do is I want to go into my movie recording shooting menu, and for me, what I do is I purposely rename the video files so I know the difference from photos and videos, because when I am having the SD card into my laptop, I know that all titles or video files named BVC are video files. Next, I want to go to my frame rate and frame size, and what I do is I go into my 4K, and I usually shoot at 24 frames per second, as you can see here, outlined by 380/40 by 2160. If you want to shoot in 1080p, you can go 120, 100 frames, 60 frames, and you even have 24 frames, and you also have the slow motions. I do not recommend using these. I actually recommend you going up to using 120 frames and slowing it in post. Next is you want to have your movie quality set on high, because if you're filming at, let's say, 1080p 24 frames, I don't know why Nikon lets you have this ability. Maybe it's just to lower down the quality, but I like to choose high quality, so make sure you're on high quality when you're shooting in 4K video. Next, I want to go down to is you want to check your ISO sensitivity. So just like my other best video settings video is you always want to make sure that you can film at the lowest ISO that you can go, and just like photos and videos, it's the same thing. For video, if you are vlogging, you can set it on to auto ISO, but if you're filming a talking head and you're in indoor environment where you can control the lighting, you want to turn that off, and you want to have the highest sensitivity. Have it not pass anywhere past, I'd say, 1600 to get the best quality that you can get, and use an external light. And you also want to have the maximum sensitivity at 3200, and you can leave that at 100 when it goes into manual mode. Next, you want to look into your white balance. I usually have it as auto. It does a pretty good job, but the thing about the Nikon Z50 now is you have more professional grade in terms of color balance. You actually go and choose your Kelvin. So you can actually go into the menu system here, go into live view, press I, and you can actually go into choosing your color temp, and you can choose your Kelvin. So the lower the number, the more cooler it is. The hotter the number, the warmer the white balance will be, but I usually leave it on auto, and you can either have it underneath auto. There's also even more advanced features like reducing warm colors, keeping all the overall atmosphere, and I usually have it at A1. So let's jump back into our picture control, aka is your picture profiles. Next is I want to have my picture control. So in terms of shooting picture control, I usually have it at, you can have it at auto, which I don't recommend, but you can also have it in standard if you want. You don't really want to worry about correcting and color grading in post-production, but if you do want to edit and have the best control of your video, even for entry-level DSLR mirrorless camera, is you either want to go to neutral, and I actually go into flat, as Nikon actually allows you to have a flat picture profile, and you actually adjust it. So the only thing I changed here was the sharpening. Automatically it is at a little bit above 1. I just changed the sharpening to 0, and everything I leave as is. Press OK, and I leave it on a flat picture profile. Next, I leave everything as is. As you can see, flickering reduction you can change in terms of 50 Hz or 60 Hz depending on the light, but I have not had any issues on that. I leave everything as focus mode. I leave it at full-time AF. If you are shooting in terms of video and your subject is in one place, you can make sure you can put it on AFS. So you half press, it focuses. You can have this for continuous AF. So you need to half press the shutter. So if you're constantly moving and you're like a running gun, your best bet is to go into AFF, which is Nikon's fully continuous autofocus. I know it's a little confusing. And you have manual focus. I usually have AFF. The area mode, I have it on auto area. It works pretty well. If you want to change it to single point where you can control, or you can have wide area and wide area AF. I usually have on auto area. You have your optical VR, which is if you have a lens which lets you have vibration reduction, you want to turn that always on, because the Nikon Z50 does not actually have IBIS. I never use electronic VR because what it does is actually crops in the video. I usually have that off. Microphone sensitivity, if you want the best sensitivity and you're using a lav, I usually put it at a 6 or a 7 depending how loud the talent is. And if it's a shotgun, I usually have it at 10 or 11. I never have it on auto. Next is your attenuator. That essentially, if there's loud peaks in terms of audio and there's a consistent stream, this is what essentially is a compressor. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's also the frequency response. You can have it at wide, which it detects all vocal ranges. I mean, all ranges of audio, but I usually don't have vocal range because I have it as a talking head video and use it for dialogue, so I usually have vocal range. And wind noise reduction, I usually have it off because if you use vocal or wind noise reduction outside, it nearly tends to lower the quality of audio, so I just usually have that off. And if you want to change your autofocus settings, for most of the part, I usually have everything left as is. You don't really need to change much when it comes to any of these settings. What I do change is if you want to change the autofocus speed and how it hunts and whether or not the sensitivity of it is, you go into the G menu, which is kind of confusing. You go to movie. And then for me, if I am running and gunning, I'm out in the wild with the Z50, I shoot it at my autofocus speed. So I usually leave it at faster, at 5. And then for my autofocus tracking sensitivity, I usually leave it at the highest that it can go, at 1. So that is how you control the autofocus speed. I never leave it in the middle because that is the default, and for me it's a little too slow. So when it comes to having good autofocus, and let's say for example you pull something right in front of the camera and it tracks it, you want to leave it at 5 and 1. But let's say, for example, you're just sitting there and you're doing a talking head video. You don't want to instantly have something like you move your hand and it focuses on your hand instead of your face again and it hunts back and forth. So you bring that down to a 4. Meaning, if you're talking head video and someone walks by, the Nikon Z50 does not go, oh, what the hell? Something is going on. I'm going to focus on whatever's in front. So that is the sensitivity. If you leave it on 4, it's more likely to keep your face or the talking head in focus in comparison to, say, let's say a bunch of crowd or people walk by. It's not going to suddenly just hunt the people in the background. Speed, I always leave on 5. And the sensitivity, it can vary from high 1 to 4. And that is my usual menu settings when it comes to getting the best quality of video. So like I said, if you haven't watched my other videos yet, Nikon Z50 has 2 modes on top. I switch it to my movie mode. ISO is at 100, 1/50 shutter, and 3.5 aperture. And if it's too dark, I bump up my ISO, and you can see within the menus of all the settings that I just talked about, you press I, and you can actually see the live view of what these changes would do. So example, you're like, okay, I don't really see a difference between flat and standard. So you can go and shift through all these picture profiles and see what's the actual difference and how it actually looks in terms of video. I prefer fully manual everything. I put it on a flat picture profile and I shoot in 4K. Autofocus, as you can see, I have it on AFF. And that is my super simple video of just overall the basics of how do you get the best quality of video for your Nikon Z50 straight out of the box. If you guys want more of an in-depth feature if I go through the entire menu system and settings, let me know in the comments. And my name is Peter. You're watching Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something. Make sure you grab my free camera guide and my video course to make you go from a complete beginner to an expert, even if you have a Nikon camera. And cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.